It's about time. We say that a lot. It's about time my favorite sports team wins a national title. It's about time to get my child off the payroll. And of course, we all agree. It's about time to see this pandemic end for good. When it comes to caring for a young girl with severe burn injuries or building a nationally recognized pediatric burn center for South Texas, it is definitely about time. It was March 10th, 2010. Chastity McMorris was 6 years old.
Chastity, the day she was burned, that day was a little different than most days. It's part of what I think is the reason it happened in a way.
Chastity's brothers were going to a Spurs game.
Little one wanted to do something too. So we were going to go do a girls' day. We were going to go get our nails done and just pamper ourselves a little bit. Mommy-daughter time. My husband left for work. My 15-year-old was there with the kids. And they decided to start making dinner early.
I remember being with my brothers, and my love language is physical touch. I don't know if this matters. So I was hanging onto his leg because it's just what I did. I was a little kid, I don't know. So I was hanging onto his leg, and I remember us playing.
1 minute the pot was on the stove.
They fell into the pan, and it literally it was a pan. We were making mac and cheese. The boiling water from the mac and cheese just spilled all over her and pretty much got her everywhere from the head to her belly.
Chastity's brother didn't hesitate for a second.
He's the reason she's still talking and joking with us and the amazing, sassy kid she is. It was too much, so he just put her in the shower. And that's what stopped her swelling in her throat.
Chastity's mom was close to home when she got the call, and within minutes, they were in an ambulance on their way to University Hospital, the region's only pediatric Level 1 trauma center.
We're also the region's only dedicated pediatric burn center for children. And that comes with a significant amount of resources, not just from surgeons and other physicians, but dedication from therapists, both physical therapy and occupational therapy, and reconstructive teams. It takes dedicated nursing care.
12 years ago, this team was just getting started.
In 2008, Hurricane Ike hit Galveston Island really hard. And at the time in South Texas, that was the only place for children to receive comprehensive burn care. So when Shriner Hospital shut down to children and other burn patients, we at University Hospital and STRAC answered a call to help pediatric burn patients.
They soon realized that South Texas families needed this program in San Antonio for the long term.
We needed not just burn surgeons, we needed a whole team of people coming together for these kids, not in the first 6 months of their injury, but really for the next 10, 20, 30 years of their lives.
This team was ready when Chastity and her mom arrived at the trauma center.
I remember asking the nurse that was with us when we walked in, what are we looking at? At that point, she still looked completely 100% Chastity. Her lips had a little peely, her eyelids were a little peely, but everything was just like this dark pink. It wasn't where you could tell it was missing skin at that point. And they were like, no, we're in for the long haul, Mom.
She had pretty severe burns, somewhere around 28% total body surface area, involving her face, her arm, her shoulder area, her neck.
Chastity went to the operating room for immediate wound care and an initial evaluation. She was admitted to the intensive care unit after.
And I was sitting next to her bed, and it finally hit me. That shock and adrenaline and everything just kind of wore off, and it was like, oh, this is big.
The tiny girl in the bed didn't look like Chastity.
Her face went from this cute little bitty skinny, tiny little face to like the size of a basketball. Her whole face and head was just, she was so swollen. And that was everything. All the way to her little scrawny fingers were like little sausages. And I started crying in the chair next to her bed. And I remember she woke up. I don't know if she heard me or she was just waking up. And she said, what are you crying for, Mom? And I said, I'm just really sad that you have to go through this. And she goes, well, stop. And I was like, huh? And she goes, well, stop. What's the point of crying? We can't do anything about it now, so just smile. And I think it was that attitude from the very first day that made me go, we're just going to do this.
It would just take time. Chastity was transferred to a regular pediatric patient room the next day.
We don't jump to surgical care. We kind of want to see what the body can do on its own, because any kind of healing that the body can do will create less scarring than what we can do for the most part.
For the first week in the hospital, they had to change the dressings several times a day. Even with pain medication, it was incredibly hard on Chastity. Dana didn't want her to be afraid of the doctors and nurses.
On the first day, they did everything that needed to be done, but starting day 2, I started doing dressing changes, and anything I could do that was going to cause her discomfort. And I didn't want her to think that these mean people just keep coming in and they just keep doing whatever they want to me, and mom's not stopping them. So then mom does it, and the doctors watch me and they make sure it's done right, and we make sure she's safe and healthy, but I didn't want them to be the bad guys ever.
So that's how it went for the first week. Then it was time to go home.
At home was a little different. She wasn't healing right on her arm. So every time we put her in the bath, it was like torture.
It was traumatic for all of them.
But it wasn't just her, and it wasn't just me. It was her father listening to her cry, and it was her brothers who were little guys listening to her, and there's nothing they can do to help their sister.
My teacher always tells me your brain doesn't forget trauma. So I may not remember like specifically the dressing changes or anything, but I know it was hard. I know it was hard on my family.
They went to the burn clinic at the hospital every week.
So the big ones where they do the debridements, where they actually take off the old skin and they go back and they do it really deep, the doctors did that here. At home, my job was to open it, rinse it with water with an antiseptic, so put the stuff back on, rewrap it.
This continued for weeks. They wanted Chastity to feel in control. She remembers one PA, Peter. He made it almost a game. He gave Chastity a giant syringe filled with water.
When she was done with what they were doing and she needed a break, she would just spray him in the face. When she was ready to start again, she would spray him. And I would tell her, get his shirt, and she would just do this silly giggle like, ha, whatever, yeah, right.
But despite all of this work and painful effort, her arm would not heal. She needed a skin graft.
The skin grafts come from other areas of the body. We try to take skin from areas that are relatively hidden. When you do a skin graft, we'll know in the first 7 to 10 days whether or not the skin graft is successfully transplanted, and the body's accepted this relocation of the skin.
Fortunately, Chastity's graft healed well, and she was ready for the next step: compression garments. In Chastity's case, she needed a mask for her face and a full zip-up shirt.
She had to wear them about 20 hours a day.
Their purpose is to keep scar tissue from building up, and to work, they needed to fit exactly right.
I mean, when I say exactly, it's exact. We had to have them changed every 2 to 3 months, and she got 2 sets each time because they stretch and they wear out.
The cost was way more than most people could afford.
It was well above my rent. My insurance didn't cover them.
Thankfully, the Texas Burn Survivor Society and the University Health Foundation Burn Fund helped cover this cost. They called them her costumes, and she wore these brightly colored garments for more than a year.
Going to school in these garments was obviously different. I think that was one of the big parts of my realizing that I didn't have the normal childhood. Is I went to school in these bright pink and bright yellow and neon green garments that covered my whole body, and the other kids didn't.
As far as I know, she never really got messed with, got picked on for it. I don't think she would have let that happen anyways, because I know her. Chastity is the girl who, when we go to the store and someone was staring when she was little, she would go, "Excuse me, do you have a question? Just so you know, I got burned." And then she would walk away, and me and my mom would be ready to fight, and she'd be like, "Okay, nothing we can do about it. Smile, let's move on."
And move on she did. She got involved with the Burn Survivor Society and went to burn camp every year until the pandemic.
Being at a camp full of people who went through this, it's like the instant friendships, like the instant, like lifelong people who you know will be by your side.
It seemed like she was doing well, at least from our standpoint, how active she was, both in her interactions with us and also how active she was at school and all the things that she was able to do. We felt like we were seeing a child with great confidence.
I see my friends and I see their insecurities and the stuff that they have to work through, and growing up, I had to work through that, obviously, but just at a much younger age. So now I don't really worry how people see me, like physically, more like I rather them see me like for who I am, like deep inside, like how my personality is. And I think that's a lot bigger than how my looks will ever affect me.
But post-traumatic stress disorder in patients like Chastity is always a concern.
You know, absolutely. And not just Chastity, but all the other children who have sustained burns. And one of the things that we've changed over the years is that we've actually put in a PTSD clinic in the trauma and burn clinic for children.
As a freshman in high school, Chastity noticed a tightness in her arm that was getting worse.
So I really, really love dance. So I was doing pep squad and I would do like these different stretches, and I just noticed that like my arm wasn't going the way it should have. I mean, it probably didn't bother anybody else, but the fact that I could look in the mirror and notice like my arm isn't going completely straight, it really bothered me.
So she was having upper arm contractures, and when you're 6 years old and you get burned, by the time you grow as a teenager, your arm is probably doubled in size, right? If not longer. And if that burn wound crosses a joint, that scar isn't going to grow. And that's what happened with her arm that ended up requiring surgery.
Dr. Liao was not surprised.
We built and put together a reconstructive program probably a year or two before she really had a real need for a reconstruction. But it was something we anticipated as the program grew.
Today, the team uses a laser to help soften scars to prevent these types of complications. They also do those dressing changes with children fully sedated. Today, Chastity is busy. She promotes kitchen and fire safety every chance she gets, and she's always ready to help when University Hospital calls, asking if she can mentor a child. She tells kids that, even if she could, she would not change what happened to her.
I would never change being a burn survivor because it had some great impacts on me, and I just feel like it's important for them to know that.
Chastity is graduating high school this year. She has big plans for the future.
I knew how good Rebecca and Jessica made me feel while I was there, and it just made me want to do that with my life. It made me want to help little kids like me. So that is a really big one. I mean, I'm going to Texas State to become a child life specialist.
I wish that she will come back to University Hospital and be a child life specialist and share her experience with all of the children that we get to take care of in South Texas, because she's such a great role model.
Who literally grew up alongside this program.
Patients like Chastity really has helped us grow our burn program to the level of national recognition because we recognize Chastity's needs. We built a program maybe for her. Really, it's for all the children in South Texas that's come since her care, that's benefited because of the needs that she has.
They helped me when I was crying in the hospital bed, making me smile, gave me a syringe so I can squirt them with water, gave me all those little things that I was happy because of them, because I feel like it's one thing to help you get through the surgeries, but it's another to help you overcome them.
I want to say thank you to every single person on her medical team, every single nurse, doctor, physical therapist, child life specialist, janitor, people who cooked for us, people who were there when I needed it the most and when she needed it the most.
We've put this family back to society in a more functional way. I can honestly say that, today when a child comes in, their care is more comprehensive than when we first started care. But that's because of patients like Chastity, and their journey is our journey.
It is about time. Time for Chastity to take the next step in pursuing her dreams, and time for this life-saving and life-changing program to soar to even greater heights.